If I could use only two words to describe the horror I'm about to inform you of, it would be mass devastation. I began learning about World War II and the Holocaust when I was in fifth grade. From the first lecture, I was hooked. But why? I wanted to know how a person such as Adolf Hitler could get away with bringing such mass devastation upon humans, his own kind. I've learned a lot about the Holocaust since my elementary years, and I have completed additional research for this speech. Today, I would like to inform you about the Holocaust and its effects on humanity. Let us begin with a brief overview. So, the Holocaust took place during World War I. Just to give you a brief timeline, the Holocaust actually began in 1933. World War II began in September of 1939, almost 6 years later. And then, for those of you who need to brush up on your world history, the U.S. entered World War II on December 7th, 1941, when the attacks of Pearl Harbor took place. So, as defined by History.com, the Holocaust was the ideological and systematic state sponsored persecution and mass murder of millions of European Jews, as well as millions of others, including Romani people, the intellectually disabled, dissidents, and homosexuals, by the German Nazi regime between 1933 and 1945. It began when a man named Adolf Hitler became the Chancellor of Germany through the Nazi Party. He blamed the Jews for Germany's loss in World War I and believed, as History.com states, Jews were an inferior race, an alien threat to German racial purity and community. He really expresses this in his book Mein Kampf, which I don't suggest you read. Hitler referred to the Holocaust as his final solution, as Boysenalt says in her article. Many things happened during this period that are unspeakable. Jews were taken from their homes and forced into ghettos, which Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines as a quarter of a city in which members of a minority group live, especially because of social, legal, or economic pressure. So these ghettos were cramped. These people's possessions were taken, their lives were completely uprooted, and they were shoved in these ghettos just because of their race and who they were as a body of people. The Jews were eventually herded into camps where they were forced to work and were often killed or died because of the conditions. To these human beings, it seemed as if there was no way out. Death seemed like the only option. So now that you know about the camps, let us dive deeper. The Nazis placed the Jews and others that Hitler saw as inferior in camps as part of Hitler's final solution. There were two types of camps in Nazi Germany. It is important to know the difference. Concentration camps were the main kind of camp, and basically these were designed to have disregard for inmates' lives, health, and as a result, tens of thousands of people perished within the camps, and that comes from the article Concentration Camps. Extermination camps were exactly what they sound like, a place to murder human beings. That's the second kind of camp. Some people in the extermination camps were lucky enough to land a job, usually handling remains and keeping the camp running, as stated in concentration camps. The conditions in these camps were terrible. They slept in overcrowded barracks, typically on straw-covered mattresses on the floor. The beds did not offer much comfort when they had to stand for hours in the early morning at roll call, as Daily Life's article states. Food was scarce in supply, which caused extreme hunger and starvation, as Daily Life's article states. Daily Life also states that disease was common. It is stated that hunger and disease turned many prisoners into living skeletons. In concentration camps, the forced labor was hard on prisoners, physically and mentally, and was as well extremely harsh. So now that we've seen these prisoners' terrible conditions, let us go into the result and purpose of knowing about this. So we should remember the Holocaust and its effects on humanity. Why? Well, at the end of World War II and the Holocaust, the prisoners had to rebuild their lives. Rebuilding was an exceedingly difficult thing to do, especially considering these people had nothing to go back to. It's quoted in Aftermath. Their suffering did not end after liberation. This quote is so true. These people had to live with the trauma of this horror for the rest of their lives. It permanently scarred them. Many are unaware of the effects of the Holocaust. It is our duty to raise awareness of the things that incited this terror. So Luigi Toscano of Mannheim, Germany, is a German-Italian photographer and filmmaker. He began a project known as Lest We Forget, an art installation featuring portraits of survivors of the Holocaust, as stated in Neiman's article. Toscano stated, "It is important that we do everything we can against anti-Semitism, racism, and any kind of hatred. This is my, you can call it, mission, as well as states that in Neiman's article. These were the main things that set the Holocaust in motion and continue to be a problem today. The misconception about racism in itself is that it refers to white supremacy, which does exist. However, the true definition of racism is much broader. It is stated to be the belief that race is a fundamental determinant of human traits and capacities, that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race, as Merriam-Webster's dictionary states. So basically, racism is saying, okay, my race is superior to yours. It's not necessarily saying um, that whites are better than blacks and that that's racism. That is not the definition of racism, though it is a kind of racism. So it is essential to raise awareness of this tragedy so that we can prevent another. This is especially appropriate with the crisis in Ukraine. One of the survivors photographed in Toscano's project happens to live in Ukraine. When asked if she were to leave her home, she said she would stay and stated, "The Russian troops liberated me from Auschwitz, and now they will kill me." And that was stated in Neiman's article. So, as we have discovered, the Holocaust was a time of mass devastation. It affected millions of people and cost so many lives. It is our duty to keep the memory of the Holocaust alive and act on the things that incited it, such as anti-Semitism, racism, hatred, and much more. This is where we as young adults come in. We have a duty to expose these injustices and fight against them with diligence, using the memory of the Holocaust as the driving force. We can do this. We can fight the injustices of today's society if we go about it in the right way with the correct mindset. It is possible. You need only to act.